Lesson 14 in Unit 1 deals with exponents and order of operations. Now, when we were doing order of operations, okay, we talked and actually did do a little bit of work with exponents, okay, but today that's going to be the main focus. So keep in mind, order of operations is a way of helping us simplify numeric expressions, all right, where we're going to take and say anything in parentheses goes first, then exponents, multiplication, division, we work left to right, and addition, subtraction, we work left to right. All right, once again, you need to write this down if you want credit on your homework. Your statement for today at the end of this is, I can evaluate expressions with exponents. So pretty simple. Before we actually get to evaluating, we're going to make sure we understand what an exponent means. All right, so when we say 3 squared, it's important to understand that 3 squared really means 3 times 3. The exponent of 2, all right, simply refers to the fact that we have that number being multiplied by itself twice. All right, so when we look at 4 to the 5th, all right, that's 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. Once again, it's not 4 times 5, which is 20. It's 4 times itself 5 times. All right. So the rest of this should go kind of quick. All right. And this first one, notice there's a lot of them because there's a lot of little things we got to be careful about. So variables are done just the same way as numbers. Because I don't have the space, I'm just going to do it underneath. The only difference is with variables, you don't even need to put the dots in the middle. All right. We just list our 5 x's. Okay. Now I want you to pay careful attention to number 4 and number 5. All right. Number 4 and number 5 look the same. However, number 5 has parentheses and number 4 does not. Exponents go directly below. So like in this case, the 5 goes to the x, not to the 4 and the x. All right. We call these numbers here. All right. That's called a coefficient. Make sure you write this down. All right. The x, because it has an exponent, is referred to as a base. And then the 5, which is the exponent, is obviously the exponent. Or a power. Same thing. All right. So again, exponents only go to the base. So when I go to write this, that 4 gets written once, and then my x will be written 5 times. All right. So we're just learning what exponents mean, and it's good to expand on it. You can see where the exponent goes. When we look at number 5, however, because of the parentheses, all right, we would say that this whole thing is a base. A base, by definition, is anything, whether it's a number or a variable, all right, or a product in this case, that has an exponent. Okay, and obviously the 5 is the exponent. So that means I need to write the base 5 times. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to come over here to get my 5th one in to fit it. 5. Okay? So moving on. We look at 6 and 7. 6 and 7 go together. And once again, you see the same problem. One has parentheses and one doesn't. So we have to know what to do with each one of these. Okay? In looking at this, all right, you'll notice in number 7, the negative sign is included in the parentheses. In 6, it's not. So that means the negative does not have an exponent of 4. What this is really saying is negative 1 times 2 to the 4th. So we would write negative 1 and then times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Whereas in number 7, we would write negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, and I'm off your screen, I think, so I'm going to go this way, times negative 2. Alright, the difference being, there's only one negative in number 6, so that answer is going to end up being negative. In number 7, there's 4 negatives, which means that answer is going to end up being positive. So you really need to pay attention to the different little notations and where the parentheses are and where the exponent is. With that in mind, let's go ahead and actually use it now and do some simplifying. All right. So when I look at example 1, once again, it's important to realize that that negative sign is not getting the exponent. So I'm going to take an extra second here and separate my coefficient from my base. So what this is 2 to the third, which is 2 times 2 times 2. All right, 2 times 2 is 4, times another 2 is 8, times negative 1, which will make that negative 8. All right. Number 2. In number 2, I have multiplication, I have an exponent. Exponents come before multiplication, so I'm going to do that first. So 4 times 8, and then 4 times 8 is 32. All right. Number 3. Now, this is something you could do in your calculator. All right, but let's make sure we know how to do it. You should be putting a parenthesis, typing in the number -5, closing that parenthesis. And then, depending on the type of calculator you either have what we call a caret button or you have an x to the y, something like that. It might even be reversed, y to the x. Whatever the case is, you type that button, you hit 2, you hit enter, and you should get positive 25. Alright, the last one for this set of examples. Alright, again, we see the exponent first, so I'm going to take care of that. Alright, I have 4 squared is 16. I can, if I want, do this multiplication because it is separated by a plus or a minus. So let me go ahead and do that. Alright, now I have addition and subtraction. I'm going to work left to right. There's 19 minus 24. Gets me -5. Okay? So, once again, it's okay to use your calculator, especially with these exponents, but make sure you know how to type it in. Most calculators, by the way, will not do problem number 1 correctly. So you really need to be careful with that and know how to separate the -1 away. Alright? And then the last thing we're going to do today is we're going to basically take the idea that we did yesterday in class, alright, and worked on substitution property and apply exponents to it. So, just like we said yesterday, the first thing we need to do is make sure we're substituting right. So, wherever I see an x, I put a 5. Wherever I see a y, I'm going to put a 3. And wherever I see, do I even have a z? I don't even have a z in any of these problems. Good. Alright, so, first thing, always substitute. When we substitute, it's usually a good idea to include parentheses. Alright, so I have multiplication, I have addition, and I have an exponent. Exponent's the most important. Although, once again, I can do both of those at the same time because they are separated by a plus sign. Alright, and that's going to be 24. The next one, always do my substitution first, make sure I'm doing it right. Now we have parentheses, so we got to do those first. Then, after we add that, we have multiplication between the 3 and the 8, and we have an exponent. The exponent needs to happen next. Okay, you cannot do 3 times 8 is 24. You have to do it this way. 8 squared is 64. Or you could keep the parentheses there. And now all we have left to do is multiply to get 192. Alright, notice problem number, they're actually all kind of similar. Alright, problem 1 and problem 2 looked similar, but 2 had parentheses. Now in number 3, you'll notice that the exponent, which originally was outside the parenthesis, in number 2, has now moved inside. Alright, let's see how that affects our answer and what we do. So we have 3, now I'm going to substitute 5 plus 3 squared. Okay. Now I have work inside the parentheses starting with my exponent. So I have 3 and then 5 plus 9. From here we get 14 and then I do my multiplication to get 42. Notice once again in problems 1, 2, and 3 the very slight difference in all these problems. They all have 3x plus y and a square, but in number 2 we have parentheses. In number 3, the exponent moves, and we all get very different answers. Okay? Number 4, you'll notice the double exponent here. So let's start out by doing our substitution. No big deal. Order of operations tells me to do work inside the parenthesis first, starting with that exponent. Still have work inside the parentheses, so I'm going to do that next. And now we look just like the previous problem, except I have this 14 squared instead of 14 here. So I have to take care of that exponent next. Similar to the step over here, let me highlight. Alright, this step and this step are the same step, just different numbers. Okay, so I end up at 196, and then I need to multiply that by 3. So you have 588. Okay, so keep in mind, once again, order of operations. Alright, slow, go step by step. There are some cases where you can skip steps like we said before, but if you're not confident on when to do that, don't. Just go ahead and stay in order. Alright, and then of course at the end, now that you've seen the video, go ahead and tell me what you can do now that you watched it. Once again, if you don't have this, you will not get credit for your homework. You need to write this statement down. See you tomorrow.